Okay, so in today's video, what I wanted to do is I wanted to show some resources that I've found, some different charts that I refer to on a regular basis. I printed them out, put them in a binder for quick and easy reference. A couple of those charts actually come out of the Learn to Weave handbook. I believe actually it's the 40th anniversary, I think, for this book by Deborah Chandler. Very, very useful if you haven't already got it or borrowed it from the library to be able to read. A really, really good read when you're getting started in weaving. Before we get on to the Learn to Weave, Handwoven actually has a master yarn chart, okay? The master yarn chart, what it does basically is that they've taken pictures of the thickness of various types of threads, okay? So for example, and it took me a while to wrap my mind around this at the beginning because the lower the number, the thicker the thread is. And so, you know, it's a little counterintuitive for me. So if I take a look at this one here, 30/2, remember 30 means the thickness. The 2 indicates how many strands are applied together, okay? So in this scenario here, 32, hold on, so 32 would be this one right here, okay? And if I were to compare that, for example, to, let's say, 8/4, okay, the 8/4 cotton right here, you can see 8/4 is substantially thicker than 32. So it would be a thickness of 8 and obviously 4 strands put together. So it does give you allow you to see a visual of what it is that you're looking at, okay? There's also some more valuable information in here. So for example, in 32 unmercerized cotton, you're looking at 11,055 yards per pound, and they also give you the meters for every kilogram if you're using the metric system. But it also tells you at the very top, it tells you here the range of set. So it says from wide as for lace weavers, medium as for plain weave, and close as for twills. No sets are given for yarns not suitable for use as a warp. Okay? So basically, that also helps, but I would actually recommend finding a more comprehensive set chart as well. Even though this is a good start for set, I found an actual better one by Jane Stafford Textiles. Now, Jane Stafford Textiles, a lot of weavers will have heard of her. Okay, so basically, we've got the information here. She gives various online lessons for weaving that are very useful as well. She does provide online this particular set chart, which I really, really love because it goes through all different types of materials that you're likely to encounter. And there will be some obviously on this chart that some that you encounter that are not on this chart, but this gives a good variety for you, okay? So for example, if I turn it on this side here, we're looking at 16/2 cotton. So all of these are 16/2 cotton. All of them, we're using them for weft. All of them we're doing plain weave. But you'll notice that the EPI, remember EPI stands for ends per inch, so we took it, we put it around a ruler for 1 inch and we saw how many times, how many ends you had in that inch that ended up going around, okay? And then the PPI is the picks per inch. So if we took like a little square, 1 inch square on the weaving and we wanted to count how many picks you actually had in an inch, it would match the same. So in this case, if I have 16/2 cotton and I want something more firm, like for napkins, I would do an EPI of 28. If I want it more drapey, I would do 24. If I want it very open, gauzy, or just stable fabric, then I'm looking at 20, for example. Okay? Now you'll also notice that twill, okay, which is a different weave structure, has obviously a totally different EPI. So you notice up here, for the plain weave, to get a nice drapey fabric, we only needed 24 EPI. That is not necessarily the same if it's a twill, okay? So I recently came across this, and I found this to be quite amazing. Here's this chart, and I use it from time to time because right now I'm planning to do another project. I'm in the middle of starting another project having to do with washcloths, and I'm going to be using basically 16/2 cotton. So I'm trying to debate, do I need it to be a bit more firmish like napkins to wash the body, or do I need like more nice drapey fabric, right? So I'm thinking I'm probably going to go towards 28. I really don't know what that is because I haven't really woven plain weave with 16/2 cotton, so that would be a new experience for me. again, sample, 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 right? That's really important to not end up wasting more than you need, right? There's nothing worse than me taking, weaving 5 washcloths and then finding out, wow, that's not the firmness that I actually wanted in the cloth, right? But again, if I don't sample, it is what it is, and that's, my fault, and that's on me. And I am terrible at sampling, as you guys may already know if you've watched other videos for me. But very, very useful. I've printed this out, and I keep this in my reference as well. Another one that I would suggest is in Learn to Weave. If we go to page, I believe it's page 210. Let me just open it up here. Right here. Okay? So there is a set chart in the actual book for Learn to Weave, and it goes through various types of yarns that you might be using, okay, and the sizes. Not as comprehensive as Jane Stafford's though. The yards per pound, tabby, so your plain weave, the set, the range that you'd be looking at, but it doesn't explain to you what kind of fabric you're actually going to end up with. And again, if you were using it for twill, what would the range be as well? Okay, so I do find Jane Stafford's to be actually, a superior to what's in this book. But again, if you're an experienced weaver, you may not need all that information. As a beginning weaver, I'm still like only 2 years in. I do find that is more helpful to me at this time. Another chart that I think you guys would find, beneficial is the Reed Substitution chart. Now, it is very possible that when you get your loom, whether it be a table loom or a floor loom, you're not going to have every reed imaginable. So they've given you a list of many different types of reeds. Some of them are not even available to buy anymore. The most common reeds tend to be 8 and 12. And I have that on my floor loom, but I just recently bought a table loom, and that table loom only came with an 8-dent reed and a 10-dent reed. Now keep in mind, remember the dents basically indicated how many dents you would have in 1 inch. So in an 8-dent reed, I would have the dents would be a little bit wider because I would have 8 in an inch. Whereas in a 12-dent reed, I would, in that same space, I would have 12 instead of 8. Okay, so the dents would be a little bit narrower. So it also would indicate what kind of yarn you could put in. I could put a thicker yarn in an 8-dent reed than I could, for example, in a 12-dent reed. Now the problem is, though, is I do a lot of 12-dent patterns, and I wanted to do them for the table loom. So the question is do I spend the money and I buy the 12-dent reed? And I may do that down the road, but let's say I don't have the money to do that right now. Does that mean I can't do those patterns? Absolutely not. You can still do those patterns by using a Reed substitution chart. Okay? So if I take a look at the 12-dent reed, it tells me that I could turn this 12-dent reed into a 4-dent reed, 6, 8, 9, 12, 15, 16, and so on all the way down. If I take a look at the 12-dent, okay, so it's a 12-dent reed, and I pretend it's a 12-dent reed, so I pretend it is exactly what it's supposed to be. It's telling me I'm putting 1 thread through per dent. We know that already, okay? If I do the same thing with a 10-dent reed, for example, it's going to tell me the same and so on and so forth, right? All of these, when they act as themselves, you're putting 1 thread through. But let's say, for example, in the 8-dent reed, let's say I wanted to use it as the 12-dent reed, let's say I wanted to use it as an 8-dent reed. How would I do that? So basically, the threads that I'm putting through, the first dent would have nothing. I would leave it empty. I would skip it. Then I would put 1 thread through the second one, 1 thread through the third one. And I would continue going on. So the 4th one would have 0, the 5th would have 1, the 6th would have 1. Okay? Let's say, for example, I have an 8-dent reed. Oh, sorry, let's look at the 10-dent reed that I have for my table loom. I want to make a 12-dent reed. According to this, I cannot do a 12-dent reed. I can do a 12.5-dent reed. Is it really that important to me? Possibly, possibly not. Okay? But what's really cool is that I do have an 8-dent reed for that actual table loom. And if I go down here, I can make exactly a 12-dent reed. In my first dent, I would put 1 thread. My second dent, I would put 2 threads. The third dent, I would put 1 thread. The 4th dent, I would put 2. And, just keep going all the way along there. So it does allow you a much more varied ability without having to buy so many different reeds in order to be able to do the patterns you want to do. So hopefully that helps you, be able to understand how to use the master yarn chart, the Reed substitution chart, and the master set chart to improve your weaving and as a quick reference to make life so much simpler. All right, and I hope that helps. Have yourself a great day.